Thank you for this privilege and pleasure once again to be here with AMA and discuss some of the very salient aspect of our life we need to explore. The entire series is entitled, as we understand, The Elements of Right Living. And today, we would be discussing the topic, dynamics of the mind. A subject, I'm sure, we have heard and many speakers have spoken to us many times, but there are different angles that we need to look at it. Dealing with the mind. An equipment, an instrument, or a tool, indeed very complex and hard to penetrate into, says the Bhagavad Gita. Now, because we do not know how to handle our own equipment, the mind which is very close to us, your inability to handle your own mind manifests as problems and difficulties in the outside world. When we are living our life and pursuing success and progress in the world, we experience a lot of mental pressure, stress and strain, worries and anxieties. In fact, if you look at the active world today, you find two types of people. One set of people are very active, very dynamic, very productive, prosperous, successful, but invariably they experience tremendous mental pressure, stress and strain, worries and anxieties. Success with a price of extreme stress and strain. There is another set of people who are relatively peaceful. They're very calm and collected, contented, but they're not really dynamic. They're not really very productive and prosperous. They become very complacent. Even in the active world, and especially if you go to the remote places, leave the city and go to the remote places, you find people there are relatively contented, peaceful. They probably have a piece of land, bit of agriculture, few cows or whatever. They're very peaceful, contented, but they're not really dynamic. But when you move to the cities, you find people that are very dynamic, successful, prosperous, but there's an alarming deterioration of mental peace and equanimity and serenity. This is because, so when you experience this stress and strain, worries and anxieties, we believe there is something wrong with the world outside. We attribute the cause of our sorrow and suffering to the world. It could be your family member. It could be your colleagues in the workplace. It could be a bad weather or a traffic. Anything else except yourself. But the truth is, when you experience any kind of unhappiness, sorrow and suffering, it's not because of what's happening outside, but we do not know how to handle this equipment called mind. It's only a four-letter word, but it can take days together for us to understand or to get some glimpse of it. I'm not saying I can explain to you, but I'm only exposing what I've been receiving from the scriptures that have been laid on by the great thinkers of the yore. Now, because we experience this stress and strain, worries and anxieties, and we have been focusing upon the outside world, we never got an opportunity to take an about turn and examine our inner system. We neither have the patience nor the perseverance to do that. You know, in China, there is a particular kind of bamboo. It's popularly known as the Chinese bamboo. Now, this particular bamboo, if you plant a stem of this bamboo, for about 4 long years, up to 4 years, the bamboo just wouldn't grow. You can put water, fertilizer, you can nurture, nourish, you can do everything. The bamboo just wouldn't grow. It wouldn't die either. But after 4 years, 5th year, within 2 months, within 60 days, the bamboo grows up to a height of 70 to 90 feet tall within 60 days. First 4 years, it just doesn't grow. You may wonder what the bamboo is up to. The bamboo doesn't waste its time. During those years, the bamboo is growing inside the ground. The bamboo is sending its roots in all directions in the ground. And once the bamboo is firmly established on the ground, only then it begins to grow outside. We got to be as wise as the bamboo, but we don't have the time, nor the patience and perseverance for that. In the name of chasing success and progress, we plunge into the world seeking success, and people do achieve fair amount of success. But at what cost? You find by the time they cross 30 or 35 or before 40, you find the symptoms. The symptoms are, what are the symptoms that we find? Hypertension, diabetes, burnout. I don't want to put the words in my mouth, that's why I'm asking you, isn't it? They achieve success. Why? Simply because, why they achieve success with a heavy price? Because they do not know how to handle it. Hypertension, burnout. They don't have the energy to continue, to persevere. And when the tension becomes too much, extremely powerful, when they can't endure it, what do? People go to the extent of committing suicide. Why? They just can't endure the pressure. One set of people commit suicide. Rest of us commit suicide by installment. That's all the difference. That's what is happening, isn't it? People who do not commit suicide doesn't mean that they are living. Gradually we are committing suicide. So therefore, it is crucial for us to understand this powerful tool that every one of us are conferred with. Now, before I plunge in the crux of the issue, it's important for us to understand what exactly is the role of the knowledge contained in the scriptures, which is actually expounding the dynamics of the mind itself. Now, having lived so many years, when I look around, the average age here will be about 23 or 24. And you flattered? All right. Having lived thus far, what do we understand by life? What is life? What is life? What do you understand by life? Let's understand the dynamics of life itself before we understand the dynamics of the mind. What is life? What do you understand by life? Life is a series of experiences. Life is a flow of experiences. If you analyze, right from morning till evening, right from birth to death, we're all going through different types of experiences. In Sanskrit, it is called Anubhava Dhara. That is, Dhara means flow, Anubhava means experiences. Life is nothing but the flow of experiences, Anubhava Dhara. So, life is the continuous flow of experiences. So, when the experiences stop, life stops. So, the nature of your life is determined by the nature of your experiences. If your experiences are happy, life is happy. If your experiences are unhappy, life is unhappy. If your experiences are slow and dull, life is dull. If your experiences are fast and swift and quick, life is dynamic. So as your experiences, so your life. So if you want to improve the quality of your life, now what do you mean by improving the quality? We want success, we want prosperity, material prosperity. We also want the invaluable, the peace of mind. If you have the prosperity at the same time, together with peace of mind, you have a better quality of living, better quality of life. But what happens today, the paradox of the modern age is that the more success people achieve, less happiness they have, less time they have for themselves, less peace of mind, and harder they have to work. The more success, the harder they have to work. The quality of life deteriorates. So better quality of living means two things: prosperity, peace of mind. All right? So if you want to improve the quality of your life, you need to improve the quality of your experiences. Because as your experiences, so your life. So if you want to improve your experience, there are different types of experiences: physical experiences, emotional experiences, intellectual experiences, spiritual experiences. If you want to improve the experience, you need to analyze the constitution, the components of an experience. An experience is basically constituted of two factors. One is the subject, the individual, you the subject, the human being, the individual, and the other is the object, the world. When the subject, individual contact the world, then an experience is born. So an experience is nothing but the interaction between the subject and the object. So if you want to improve the experience, you need to improve both these components, the subject and the object. Now let us consider the object, the world. What is this world composed of? The world can be broadly categorized into three. There are three facets of the world. One is, the world contains people, nature, and wealth. These are the three aspects of the world. Take away people, 1/3 of the world is gone. Take away nature, 2/3 are gone. Take away wealth, the world is no more. There are several ways to define the world. This is one of the ways to look at it. So, in order to improve the world, there are three sets of scientists. From time immemorial, they have been working on improving the world. They went about very systematically, very methodically in the process of improving the world. They got into the world, they collected data, they gathered information, and they retired in their own laboratories and researched upon the data they have collected. And they established laws and principles pertaining to the field of inquiry. What do you call the scientist who focused upon wealth? The economist focused upon improving wealth. They researched and established laws and principles pertaining to the wealth. The scientist, in today's context, you find they're far from scientists. The politicians focused upon people. They researched, analyzed, and established laws and principles pertaining to the society, politician, and scientist deal with nature, different field of activity of nature. So the economists, politicians, and scientists worked on improving the world. They poured in their effort. From time immemorial, they have been working on improving the world, and they established laws and principles pertaining to the field of inquiry. And that body of knowledge, the laws and principles laid down by the economists, is called economics. And the body of knowledge laid down by these politicians is political science, politics and science. Now these are the three bodies of knowledge that every one of us have been gathering information through schools and colleges and education institutions. They stuff our mind with information, and our mind is clustered with a whole lot of belief systems. As a result, we are not able to have the clear thinking. So the knowledge that you have been gaining through schools and education institutions are knowledge of economics, politics, and science. Under each, there may be several branches, but the knowledge that you have been gaining only in reference to these three. All right? Economics, politics, and science. So these three thinkers have done a fantastic job in improving the world. They developed the world brilliantly, haven't they? If you analyze the objective world, you find amazing development. It's a result of effort put in by these three sets of scientists. Now, what I want you to understand, what I want you to think is that in spite of these economists, politicians, and scientists improving the world, in fact, they improve the world almost to a point of fault. In spite of their developing the world, what are we experiencing? What's happening to people? If you observe, if you look around the world, what's happening? In spite of their incredible contribution in terms of development, what's happening to people? What are we experiencing? The more they improve the world, what happens is our happiness is deteriorating gradually. There's an alarming deterioration of peace and contentment. The more the world is improved, our happiness deteriorated. If you trace back about 30 or 40 or 50 years before, the happiness our parents or grandparents enjoyed were much better quality than what we are experiencing today. You have stress and stress-related diseases increasing. Crime and crime-related problems are increasing day by day, all over the world. So they improve the world, but the happiness is deteriorate at alarming rate. Now, what do you think is the reason that as the world is improved, our happiness is being deteriorated? Because in the process of improving the world, they totally neglected the self, the subject. Now, this was understood by another set of thinkers. They knew that by merely improving the world, you cannot improve the happiness of people. They focus upon the subject. They went about very systematically, very methodically in the process of improving human life. They didn't really focus upon the outside world. They focused upon the subject. They got in the world. They collected data, gathered information, and they retired into their own laboratories and in the deep recesses of Himalayan jungles. And they researched upon the data they've collected, and they established laws and principles pertaining to the subject, pertaining to the human mind, human self rather. They are the sages and saints, prophets, philosophers of all quarters of the world. The sages and saints, prophets, philosophers focus upon the subject. The economists, politicians, and scientists focus upon the object. And the body of knowledge laid on by the philosophers, sages and saints, prophets, is called philosophy or Vedanta. Vedanta. The word Vedanta is made of two Sanskrit words, Veda and Anta. Veda means knowledge. Anta means end. Vedanta means knowledge of the self. The end of knowledge, the culmination of knowledge, which is the knowledge of your own self. There's no knowledge beyond knowing your essential self. The science of the individual. I would call them, this set of scientists, the subjective scientists. So if you, the subject, is improved and the object is improved, what is improved? Experience are improved. If your experience are improved, life is improved. Now, just as the objective scientists discovered that the world is nothing but nature, people, and wealth, the subjective scientists also analyzed and discovered what the subject is all about. They found that the subject, the individual, is basically composed of 4 wondrous and dynamic tools or equipments. They discovered that every human being is a necessary combination of 4 equipments, dynamic tools. What are these 4 equipments? At the outset, you have a body. Your body is just a vehicle taking you from experience to experience, from place to place. Just a tool. Now, the body by itself has no activity, it has no movement. Beyond the body, within the body, is the 3 tools, powerful equipment, which is the focus of today's discussion. And that is the mind. The mind, manas. Quite different from the mind is your intellect. And apart from the mind and intellect,